I've been drawing and painting since I could hold a brush. My mother just looked at me and said, well, you can draw, so you've got to be an artist. But as a 40-year-old, I was like, why am I an artist? It's because my mother told me to be. But then I thought about it and I just went, well, what else do you do with someone that's good at drawing and painting? Send them to art college. So I went to art college for 5.5 years. I learned how to draw, I learned how to paint, and I got a bit bored with it. I wanted something more. So in the second year of my degree, I used to take my still lives, we'd have a still life and paint it on the canvas. And I was like, no, I'm going to paint on the still life. So I'd have like a pair of old boots and a vase and flowers, and I'd cover it in like, what did I used to use, like plaster, and then I'd paint on the plaster, so the still life was the art. And then I was like, wow, slide projectors became available, so I'd make textures, and then I'd make slides, and I'd project on the still life, so I'd project these textures. And then I was like, wow, these textures are amazing. Sod the still life, I'm just going to project. And I started projecting, and this is like in 1989. The computers, they had black screens with green writing on them. I had to make everything up from scratch. I'd tear bits of paper and put it in front of the lens and move it around, and it was just like playing and fun. But still, there was no computers, I couldn't edit, I couldn't really do anything. But I carried on anyway, so I had like piles of photographs, because the only way of really documenting my work was photographs. So time moves on, and I've been going out with my slide projector for quite a few years, and then video comes along, and I got lent a video camera, and I was like, oh wow, I can make my slides with this. And very soon afterwards I realised I was using the video camera to make photography, and then one day I looked at the VHS tapes and I was like, oh wow, that's a film, and it was all pixels and abstract. I was like, what do I do now? I have no idea about filmmaking, I don't know what to do. So I went to the normal exhibitions I was doing with a television, and I put my film on it. And people started hitting the telly going, it's not working, it's all abstract. And I was like, that's what it's supposed to be like. And then there was lots of parties happening in London. I'm from London. And so I kind of got the idea that I could take my television to the nightclubs and get paid for it. And but I needed bigger tellies, so I'd have like these old-fashioned tellies were like that, they're that wide. And I'd have like 6 of them stacked up. And I used to carry them, I was really strong in those days. And I'd carry them to the parties, and I'd have these televisions stacked up and play my films on them. That's still about 1993. So 1995, video projectors came out, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Ditch the televisions, projectors. So I started showing my films on the video projectors. I was the most popular girl in London. I was the only one with a video projector. So I got invited to all the parties. It was great. And then, so I carried on at theatres, parties, festivals, showing videos. And then one time I did Sonar Festival in Barcelona in 1996, and they had this box and had buttons on it, and I was like, what's that for? And they said, you've got 3 screens, you can swap between the screens. Wow, so I was pressing the buttons, and I found I could move them along, and then the next year I came across a mixing desk, and I started hiring the equipment. So every gig I did, I used to ask more money until I could hire all the equipment I needed. And then I started working in hires. So I didn't even have to hire it, I could just take all the equipment at the weekend. I used to hire out, had about 20 video projectors. I worked for the London Filmmakers Co-op and London Electronic Arts. And I had a cupboard full of equipment, it was amazing. So anything that wasn't out at the weekend, I could take with me to the gigs. So I did. So sometimes under the railway arches in London Bridge, I've had like 9 video projectors and a couple of slide projectors. and I'd have the visuals going. And when you command a space like that and you've got 1,000 people inside, you can't just blast light everywhere. You know, you have to be selective, you know, it has to be quite dark and just subtle visuals coming along. So, content-wise, I used to film things like, you know, my hand, you know, my fingers. You know, my fingers can dance really well, actually. They've been to loads of places. In the old days, I used to go out with a lot of equipment, and I'd have to, do you remember VHS tapes? Chunky things, and I used to have to make 20-minute clips, and I'd have a big suitcase, and I'd have to have big labels on it, because I was always working in the dark, and I'd have to look and see which tapes, and put them on, and then go, oh, not that one. And then with the computers, it was just like, okay, I had to remake my whole show into 10-second clips. But between that point in time, I had a fire and I lost all my equipment and all my visuals, everything's gone, except the video projector and the mixing desk, you know. And I was like, damn, I was going to be a sculptress and now I have to carry on with this. So I realised, even though my visuals had gone, I realised they were all up in my head. I knew what I was doing, and I got a camera and I filmed everything again, and I got myself a computer, and I made my show cleaner, brighter, more beautiful than it was before. And the thing with visuals, like I am here tonight, I'm in front of a lot of people. With the visuals, you can make people feel different things. You know, like when you watch a film, a horror film, you're like, oh, you know, and a romantic comedy, you're like, oh. You can do that with film. You can make people feel things. If I show flowers, you're all going to go, oh. If I show skulls, you're going to go, yeah. If I show graffiti, you're going to be like, I'm so cool. You know, if I show bubbles, you're like, oh, it's pure, it's lovely. So when I go to a party or an event, it's like, I'm like, how should we make everyone feel today? So sometimes I start off with drawings, and I've got my sketchbook, I film it, and I put it up, and it'll just be like my little doodles on a black background, like, so it's like a chalkboard, and I sort of spread them around the room, and it's just kind of easy and interesting. But it makes everyone feel like they're at the coolest place they've ever been to. You know, video projections have that power, they make you feel cool. So then I'd start off black and white, and then I'd generally build up some colour until it's just loads of flowers, erotic poetry, and just, you know, whatever I felt like at the time, because I'd be playing for like maybe 8 or 9 hours over an evening. Because really there's not that many people that do the visuals. There's a lot more these days, people do it, but in the old days there was very few of us. So, and you have total freedom, because nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody. They're just like, because they don't know how it works. They can say like, oh, can you put my name on that? Like, yeah, happy birthday. And that makes people feel good. So I have total artistic freedom. And I spoke to someone recently, she said, as an artist, it's the only trade where you see your product through from beginning to end, and it's only you. Everything else, you've got maybe 2 people or a team. But with painting and drawing and this style of video, there's only one person all the way through the whole process. So it's a massive reflection of who you are. Although I must say I do absolutely love working in a team. I much prefer working in a team. It means I can wear dresses like that and have guys crawling around the floor with all the cabling. You know, they put all the projections up for me, and I'm just like, oh great, I can wear my dress. With the visuals, you're working with technology all the time. So you're plugging things in, and you're sitting at the computer for hours on end. To make a video, you know, you're talking about 3 days non-stop at the computer. When you're doing a painting, you know, you can be outside, you know, flicking paint over yourself, and it's